What if distance no longer mattered? What if traveling didn't mean traffic jams, airport lines, or waiting for delays, but simply a decision you made? In the year 2425, travel is no longer an obstacle. It's an experience. Roads and borders exist only in history books, and the idea of too far away has lost its meaning. You step in, and seconds later, the world unfolds. Cities, oceans, planets, all within reach, almost instantly. But the real question is not how fast we can move. It's, what does it mean when distance itself disappears? Welcome to Earth 2425, a journey into the future, where transport is no longer just a tool, but the beginning of a new kind of freedom. Today, in the 21st century, transportation mostly means limitation. We spend hours stuck in traffic. We lose entire days inside airports. And trains, supposedly fast, arrive late. Travel is stress, travel is expensive, and travel devours time. Yes, we move, but we are trapped by distance. Distance dictates our lives, where we work, who we love, and how we plan our days. And when the path becomes too long, we often decide not to start the journey at all. Movement turns into a burden, not a freedom. The cost? Not only money and time, but also the environment, suffering from every liter of fuel burned. Transportation today is a necessary evil. We believe we are traveling, but in truth, we are fighting against limits that remind us every day we are not free, yet. There came a point when the old system could no longer hold. Roads were clogged, airports overwhelmed. Borders felt like scars on a world that had already become global. And then came the crisis. Climate change showed us that millions of tons of fuel could not be burned forever. Megacities were on the verge of suffocation from traffic. And for billions of people, movement became a daily struggle. We did not need better cars. We needed an entirely new way to move. It was no longer the question, how do we improve the old, but how do we reinvent transport completely? The first phase began here on Earth. Roads disappeared, replaced by grav lines, enormous magnetic rings, where capsules floated silently, without resistance, through entire cities. Where once there were traffic jams, now stood glass-like tubes, stretching across landscapes like glowing veins. Over forests, across oceans, people traveled from continent to continent in minutes. The Hyperloop, once a promise of the future, became obsolete because grav lines worked without friction, without noise, and with almost no energy loss. Cities transformed. Transport was no longer a chaos of metal and exhaust, but a flowing river of light. You stepped in as casually as entering a cafe, and moments later, the world opened before you. The second phase began when we left the planet. Space travel became everyday life. Orbital shuttles launched like buses, regular, reliable, almost unremarkable. In low Earth orbit, massive transit hubs were built. They looked like floating airports, with docks for hundreds of shuttles, hotels for travelers, and parks where people waited for their next connection, while beneath them, Earth was glowing. And then came the space elevator, a colossal ribbon, stretching from the equator all the way into orbit. Goods and people entered capsules, gliding smoothly along the edge of gravity. The elevator connected Earth directly to the sky. No rockets, no fire, just the quiet ascent. From then on, the way into space was no longer the exception. It was routine. The third phase began when we claimed the solar system. Mars was no longer a barren red planet. It had been terraformed, with its own atmosphere, artificial oceans, and green valleys spreading between the red cliffs. Families booked vacations in dome resorts. Children played on red sand beaches beside lakes that once seemed impossible, while the stars glittered above them. Satellite cities around Jupiter and trade stations at Saturn were no longer science fiction. They were as ordinary as a flight to New York once was. New propulsion systems made it possible. solar sails unfolding like colossal wings, quantum engines bending space-time, shrinking distances. Interplanetary travel was no longer a dream. It was routine. People commuted between Earth, Mars, and Titan as casually as they once traveled from city to suburb. And with every passing year, one question drew closer. If entire worlds are within reach, what does home even mean? The fourth phase began when the solar system became too small. Mars, Titan, the stations at Jupiter, they had become routine. Humanity wanted more. Enormous generation ships left Earth's orbit, gigantic mobile cities equipped with biodomes, artificial gravity, and drives built to last for centuries. But survival was not enough. We built quantum jump gates, tunnels through space-time that made stars suddenly reachable. A journey to Alpha Centauri no longer took centuries, but hours. Across galaxies, new routes unfolded. Colonies grew on worlds once seen only through telescopes, and the void between stars became a new ocean we learned to sail. Transport was no longer planetary or interplanetary. It was interstellar. A new era of discovery had begun. What happens when no one is ever far away? When distance no longer matters? Not between cities, not between planets, not even between stars. The world changed completely. No airports, no long journeys, no goodbyes forever. Families lived across galaxies, and yet still together. Daily life felt different. You could have breakfast in Tokyo, take a walk on Mars at noon, and spend the evening with friends at a bar near Saturn. Relationships were redefined. What does forever mean when you can move from one star system to the next in an instant? Partnerships, friendships, communities, they no longer belong to a single place, but to everywhere. And the economy? No scarcity of resources, no fixed borders. Industries moved to wherever energy was abundant. Orbiting suns, mining asteroids, vast artificial habitats. We no longer lived in a world of limits. We lived in a universe where distance itself had disappeared. But in the end, one question remained. If distance has disappeared, if we can be everywhere at once, what does it truly mean to arrive? Is the destination a new world, or the end of worlds altogether? In the year 2425, transport was not just overcome, it transformed into something else. A search for meaning in a universe without borders. And the next question was no longer, where do we travel, but what comes after life without distance? This was only a glimpse into the world of tomorrow, a future where transport no longer builds walls, but opens horizons. But the real journey is only beginning, because every new technology turns the question back on us. Not just how we travel, but why. Welcome to Earth 2425, the channel that guides you into the future. Stay with us and join us on the path into the unknown.